Good morning. Welcome to Exploring Economic Development with MEDC. I'm Meredith Harris, and I'm joined today by my co-host, Jillian Roberts.
Meredith.
Good morning.
Wednesdays are the best.
We haven't been here in a while, so it's nice to be back.
Yep.
Yeah. It's a rainy, dreary Wednesday morning, but we have a wonderful show ahead.
In downtown Marlborough.
That's right. A lot of construction going on, but we're good. We're
Yeah.
good. So today we have a very special, exciting guest. We're going to talk about life sciences, but before we get to our guest today, we want to recap our last episode, which was episode 44.
44.
We had
First
Stacey
week of
David.
June, right?
Yep, June. We had Stacey David. We took July off. We had summertime and living's easy. So we had Stacey David from the Metro West Boston Visitors Bureau, which was a great episode. We talked everything tourism, regional tourism bureau. We were just saying heads in beds, how we make sure that we're getting people to the region to, not only stay here, but then play here.
Absolutely.
Once they're here. And if you missed that episode, make sure to check it out. It was a lot of valuable information and one of our wonderful partners. So if you missed it, catch the replay.
Yeah, and we highlighted a lot of great opportunities here right in Marlborough. So many things to do.
Lots of things happening.
For
Boardwalk.
everyone. The Boardwalk.
All kinds of
Apex
stuff.
Center.
Restaurants.
The best.
Yeah. Sports Center. We could go on.
We could. We won't.
We won't. Watch the
could.
replay. That's right.
Watch the replay.
Watch the replay.
Yeah. So we're live streaming right now to Facebook, LinkedIn, where else? YouTube, and also WMCT TV, right down the hall from us. They're doing an awesome job with our local cable access channel. So if you are watching this and you have any questions for our guest or for our team, you can just go ahead and type that, and we might be able to integrate that into the show. And if you're catching this on the replay, our contact information is below, so feel free to reach out to us if you have ideas for future episodes or you have any questions about the city of Marlborough or about our life science, about
Industry.
Sartorius. Oops, I gave it away. That's who our guest is here. But if you have any questions, reach out to us. We'd love to hear from you.
Right. All right. So let's get going.
Yeah.
We're going to introduce Maurice Phelan from Sartorius. Maurice, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you. You're one of our wonderful life science companies here in Marlborough with not one location, but I think it's 4 locations in Marlborough.
Yes, 4 now.
Wow. Amazing.
Since 2019.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So before we get into Sartorius, you've been in Marlborough for a long time. You've kind of been at a couple different companies. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and then also a little bit about Sartorius and what your role is currently?
Sure. So originally, I moved to the Massachusetts, Boston area in the early 90s, originally from Ireland. I spent I'm a chemist by training. I spent almost 7 years actually as a researcher at Children's Hospital in Boston, attached to Harvard Medical School.
Wow.
That was straight out of college, so I figured out a way to get them to want me.
No brainer. It's no brainer.
But it was great, a great experience. Then I've been in the life science bioprocessing sort of arena for the rest of my career, really.
That's awesome. So this is before life sciences kind of was big, too. You're talking early 90s?
Yeah, way at the beginning of the sort of upswing in biotech, drug development, Genentech, Biogen were really, Amgen were really the sort of the big 3 companies at the time.
Right.
I spent 18 years in various roles over at Millipore, which is now Merck, Merck Millipore, Merck Sigma. My introduction to Marlborough was a 5.5 year assignment I did at GE Healthcare. I was responsible for
GE Healthcare,
their
right?
global, now Cytiva, their global, their global bioprocessing and life science group. And in fact, in the last sort of year or so, we began the project, which is now up on Results Way.
Right.
And then
one of our premier spots in the city, right?
Exactly. And then I joined Sartorius in 2018. And, I was based in Cambridge, and at the time we had a small lab in Kendall Square, just off Kendall Square in Cambridge, and we had some kind of deep R&D corporate research team over in the seaport, and that was it, other than field-based people that were, in the New England area. And between 2019, which was the first appearance of SARS, COVID-19, we did a major asset acquisition when Danaher and Cytiva came together. And I led the integration piece of those assets into the Sartorius larger company. And a big piece of that was our first step into Marlborough.
And so that was 2019, you said? 2020 timeframe?
Yeah, 2019 in I think it was September, October of 2019.
Okay.
We closed it in April of 2020.
Cambridge.
No,
you
we closed
the deal. The project. Okay. Yep.
But from the first announcement, we began engaging on where's the correct home for these businesses, these products, these technologies, and most importantly, the people.
And do you still have the location in Cambridge? Is that still there?
We've just exited that actually and consolidated into
Marlborough.
The new project in Marlborough.
Okay. What made you choose Marlborough? Why were you guys looking? I mean, and you're not alone. We see this a lot where a lot of companies have a small footprint in Cambridge or Boston, get started. It's really well known part of the world really to get started in life sciences, and then oftentimes they migrate out here. You tell me, why did you guys do that?
I mean, the numbers exercise is certainly a big piece of it. If you depending on what you're trying to do, and a piece of what we were doing was certainly focusing on manufacturing. But when you have a good idea of the size of footprint that you need, and then you just look at the numbers associated with doing it in various locations, quite honestly, Cambridge becomes prohibitive quite quickly.
Yeah.
So you really need a very, very good reason to be in the middle of Cambridge.
They don't have a lot of big blocks of space either.
Well, at the time, believe it or not, I think there was only one single sort of 20,000 block space available. So that's how hot the whole area was. I think it's quite a different story now after we've all made our way through, the pandemic, and people are rethinking, what's the value proposition of being located there versus other locations, and we did all of that.
Sure.
But it wasn't the only reason. I mean, I had quite a bit of experience with Marlborough, with the city, from my previous lives at GE.
So it was a good experience, it sounds
like. Yeah, it was
like.
very good.
Good.
It was very good because remember, at the end of my time there, we actually engaged and started the transition
project
up to Results Way.
Right.
But the sort of dedicated exercise and efforts that you guys have going on here under your leadership and under the leadership previously of Mayor Vigent and now Mayor Dumas, it was quite an easy decision at the end of the day. You guys really know what you're doing.
Thank you.
You're very, very, very connected to the network. Helped us enormously understanding
the TIFs. And
exactly.
Yeah.
The state incentives, what resources can be brought to bear to help us deliver the project. And then, we were building here, and we were building during COVID.
Right.
And we needed a high degree of confidence that we could get it executed on time. And it was difficult, but you guys,
no doubt.
It turned out to be a great choice, right? Because you guys.
Well, we see the value. We see the value in what companies like yours bring to the city, and I think that what sets Marlborough apart is that we say we're open for business and we mean it. And we really want people to come, and we want to bring all of you together, and whether that's through the board of directors or different networking events or things like that. But to create the ecosystem in the cluster and make sure that you guys are all successful. And the other piece of it too is once you're here, we don't just leave you alone. We really want to bring you in and make sure that you have what you need to continue to grow.
Exactly. And in the middle of the first project, we bought a second company in Marlborough.
Right.
A separations
Donald-
company
yeah.
down on
WaterSep, right?
WaterSep,
That's
exactly.
Right. Yep.
So in a 6-month period, we had sort of made our play, if you like. And it was quite a bit before, you know, Moderna actually made their move.
Yeah, you guys were first.
Yeah, and people were at the time. It's not a long time ago, but people were saying, "Are you really moving to Marlborough?"
Mm-hmm.
And now it seems like
Everybody
wants to move here. So you know, traffic is much more easy to handle. For me, as long as the tunnel isn't closed, it's a kind of a reverse commute.
Right. Yeah, that's a bear, but yeah.
Well, it's almost over, I think. So.
Right. And from your employee perspective, are they finding what they need in terms of, you know, restaurants and amenities and hotels? I mean, does all of that play into your decision making when you're looking at locations?
When I think back 9 years ago, and compare it to today, when we've got visiting teams, when we've got customers coming in for extended periods, meetings, collaboration stuff, it's a different world.
Yeah, you have a lot of options.
I mean, honestly, version 1, it was very difficult to have extended meetings here, because unless you were going to go into town or head into Worcester. But now there's lots to do here.
Right.
Restaurants, hotels. I mean, we had our two of our executive board were traveling with me to various sites in the U.S., and they both stayed in Marlborough.
That's great.
Very, very impressed by our CEO and CFO, by
all the things,
by all of what it has to offer now.
Well, and I think it's important to note that's all by design too. Like it doesn't just happen that way. You have to actually think it through. And, you know, kudos to current administration, but the past administration, you know, Arthur Vigent for 12 years was looking at, you know, the city and saying, how do we make sure that businesses want to come here, and really set a great blueprint for what we're reaping the benefits now. And you know, phenomenal mayor did a lot of work to make sure that companies felt welcome. You know, and it's fun to be able to continue that. And I think that the new administration sees the beauty of it, sees the success of it, and wants to continue down that path. So we're fortunate in Marlborough that we have, you know, administrations that see the benefit of it and want to continue to attract companies like yours. So what was the first location? Was it Locke Drive?
Yes.
It was Locke Drive.
Locke Drive was first.
Yeah.
And, you know, strange set of coincidences, the Locke Drive facility was one of the buildings that I was actually
at GE
responsible for, you know, in the other role. But so knew the building very well. We completely redid and opened that redid the whole 45,000 square feet for where we created a customer interaction center. And this was Marlborough, and that site is the place where we launch our products from. Okay. So we design, you know, manufacturing, bioprocessing equipment and processes. Okay. And those are built in various locations. A major location is our Cuxhaven, Germany site. Okay. But the value of the operation in Marlborough is we bring our customers there rather than them having to get on a plane.
Go to Germany.
We shake down the equipment, we assemble it, we build it for them. We put it all together, run it through its paces, and we can deliver our technologies in the marketplace in which it's being used. Okay. That's hugely valuable to customers, big time saver, but it also immediately adds to our sort of visibility in the largest market, you know, in the world.
So for anybody watching, can you tell us a little bit, like, what does Sartorius do? So, like, who are your clients? Who are your customers? What type of work are you guys doing here in Marlborough?
We're doing various types of work. I mean, we are, in a sentence, a tools and technologies company that enable
Yep.
the discovery and development of medicines.
Okay.
We are we're very committed to going hand in hand with our customers to develop the most efficient manufacturing processes with our technologies that we possibly can, helping them produce medicines faster, purer, higher quality, and not coincidentally in the most cost-effective way, because it's become a very big issue. Of course, cost of therapies, but in order for us to do that, we need to get as close as we possibly can to our customers with a very, very good understanding of what they're trying to accomplish.
So them being able to come into the site is huge.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we double down, of course, with our new project.
So
tell us a little
Lynch.
bit about that. I'm sure for anybody in Marlborough, you see the headlines and, Sartorius is expanding and, $100 million investment. What does that look like? What are you guys doing over there? And we're bringing lots of jobs and there's so much activity. Can you tell us a little bit about where we're at and what it's going to look like?
Yeah. So this project, I guess the best way to think of it is a center for excellence for discovery, technology discovery, tools discovery, for development of next generation therapies.
Okay.
And also a place where we can, at scale, not just on a lab bench, but at scale that's meaningful to our customers, develop their processes hand in hand with them.
So it's more hands-on.
Yeah, some of it is very hands-on. Some of it is, a team of unbelievable scientists that are looking even now up to 10 years into the future to say, what technologies do we need to own or have access to or develop ourselves in order to be ready for the next wave of therapeutics, the next wave of cures.
Right.
And what type of manufacturing platforms will they require? What type of characterization? What type of analytical tools will be required?
Right.
So that it's a whole grouping of our capabilities. That's very targeted on the next generation of therapies or new modalities, as we call them. Everybody's familiar with mRNA.
More than we want to be, right?
Yeah. Yeah. But in parallel with the mRNA platforms, which have multiple applications beyond vaccines,
right,
there are cell and gene therapies. And in hand with cell and gene therapies are other forms of delivering these, which are novel, complex, need an awful lot of thought and an awful lot of sort of science, engineering, and development work to get them right. But we really are. It's a kind of an underscores our commitment to new modalities and next generation therapies. And you and I talked about this before, but at the board actually.
Yeah.
But the difference between therapies and these next generation of medicines is that this next generation are curing people.
And you had talked a little bit about like it's specialized too, correct? Is that kind of the way that things are moving? And
yeah,
some
I mean,
of it?
a lot of these therapies today are based on the patient's genome, the individual's genetic code or a genetic defect that the particular patient has, and inserting genes that correct permanently for that individual.
Wow, it's incredible.
Yeah, I mean it's mind blowing to think of. But
did you ever think that we'd be here like talking about this kind of stuff? A
part of me did, because I was early on in my career. I was involved in transplant research at Children's, and they were doing, autologous bone marrow transplants, which were precursors to a lot of what's happening today.
Now.
And the fact that they could actually, wipe out a kid's immune system and then put in fresh, healthy
Wow.
cells and reverse things like leukemia
It's incredible.
was fantastic. And this is just, the next version of years and years of research on this. So it's fantastic. Then it's amazing, though, how quickly it happened.
Right. Well, so you said quickly, but like we're talking 10, 15 years, but...
Probably on the research side, but I mean, very few people
talking about it.
Were talking about it, even except companies like us and our customers. But
it's bubbling.
Internet and information availability, makes this, and also digitalization, AI has made this a sort of a just free flow of information. So it's been amazing.
Great. So those 120 jobs that you guys are creating over there, a lot of those are scientific. Are they more R&D?
I think they're all of the above.
All of the above.
Manufacturing, process development scientists and engineers, quality, even things like facilities and maintenance engineers, because these are complex, and it is a very complex facility.
Right.
But we, and whether it's in operation or whether it's, asleep over things like holidays, it needs to be taken care of all the time.
Right.
And so, it's all of the above.
And you guys are always hiring, right? I mean, there's people that are interested. They should take a look at your website. And I that's always something I find interesting, that people that live here and they drive by these big facilities, and I say this all the time, but they're almost like nervous about what's going on in there. But you guys have lots of opportunity for people to...
Yeah, I mean, we're in the process right now of starting up and qualifying that facility. And then we're going to be loading it up with customer projects.
Sure.
And there's going to be plenty of opportunity that comes, hand in hand with all that activity down there.
Right. Any plans for future growth, whether it's in Marlborough or just within the company?
Yes, we are. We're doing a few kind of major projects in our global footprint. We did a very large expansion in our one of our kind of like flagship manufacturing sites in the south of France. We have a very, very large expansion project in South Korea right now, which has become a massive biotech hub.
Really?
Driven. Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Driven by companies like Samsung Biologics, who are one of the largest in the world now. Celltrion is another one. Lotte.
Okay.
Or another, but we're going to be right in the middle of that in South Korea. I think we've done a lot very quickly in Marlborough, so we are going to be working very hard, at least in the first ramp, getting it up and running, making sure that it delivers
machine.
our expectations and our customers' expectations.
Right. So,
but I mean, think about it this way. We've got quite a footprint here already in a very short period of time. So
I don't know of any other company that has 4 locations in the city. I mean, that in a short period of time too, which is great. So we see other parts of the country too. People are kind of catching on to this life sciences and obviously other parts of the world is what you're saying. So it's important for the state and everyone to keep their eye on the ball, right? And not take their eye off the ball. We want to make sure that we're continuing to invest in this industry and not take it for granted, right? I mean, we need to continue to bolster it. And companies like yours are making the economy tick over here in Massachusetts.
Yeah, I mean, I think I was recently at a speech that Governor Healy gave about the refunding of the life science
Center.
bill,
Right.
and her point was exactly that. If you get comfortable, you're going to wake up some morning and the discussion is going to be about Houston.
Right. Right.
I
remember Chicago was trying to get on it. We did a site selector trip in Chicago like 2 years ago, and they literally were trying to look at what, and I get it, right? But they were looking at what Massachusetts was doing 10 years ago and trying to almost catch up to what we've been doing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Research Triangle Park, North Carolina, Houston, the Bay Area, and San Francisco has always been the sort of original of the species in terms of but biotech began in Boston.
Yeah. So how important is it for you guys to be in a cluster or around other life science companies or your customers? And we talked about that a little bit, but does it help from a employee retention and attraction standpoint? What's the benefit for that?
I mean, the primary benefit is you're always going to be better when you are where your customers are.
Sure.
But along with that comes exactly what you've said, which is top talent. And they travel hand in hand. But the ability to, so if you think about the clusters that have developed, RTP is a little bit of an anomaly in that regard because it's staged this massive comeback, but that's not by accident either. But the others, think about Philadelphia, Boston, Houston, for example. It begins very early on with major medical research centers, major, very, very high profile medical schools, which become massive hubs of basic research and discovery, and then spills out from that. UPenn, University of Houston, University of Texas, and of course, Boston with its rich list of universities, medical centers, who are all, working with each other in various ways, shapes, and forms. And I mean, if you think about why Kendall Square, started in the beginning,
where it is now too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's wild to see the growth, and but you all have similar needs, right? I mean, so from a municipal standpoint or government standpoint, we try to look at how can we help and make sure that you guys are growing and that you have what you need. Because if you don't have what you need, you're going to go somewhere else. And the big topic the past year or so has been kind of this housing conversation. And is that affecting you guys? And what are your thoughts on what the state is doing, what we should be doing more of, or do you have what you need out here?
I mean, honestly, there can always be more. Because the better, particularly for folks who are like new graduates, I from time to time, at a conference or some kind of event where you're meeting folks that are pitching new ideas, you meet these guys who are spending a fortune to live in Boston,
right?
Just to be there so they can be a little bit closer to the action as they sort of begin their climb up the career ladder. But there is no way today that as they enter the sort of career ladder in biotech and pharma, even with us or whether it's with some of our customers, they've got to go well outside the city if they're going to invest in a home. Most of these folks are sort of thinking about partners and getting married, and all of that becomes very, very important. And more important since the kind of the position that work-life balance has occupied in the post-COVID era.
world, right?
It's very important. So a company coming to a place like Marlborough that understands really quickly that you guys are on it and that you've got lots of data to say, sort of what the market looks like, what the projects that are ongoing, to allow it be or make it easier for folks to come and live here,
Right.
Is great. The other one is transportation.
Well, and it's hard. Like, we've been running a shuttle bus for, I guess, 4 or 5 years. Right before COVID, we started, which I can't believe is almost 5 years ago. But we have riders on it, and it closes that what we call the last mile gap. And we talk about this. We can run the video later. But we have some folks that are still living in Boston or living in Worcester, getting on the shuttle, coming out. I'm sorry, they get on the train, come to Southborough, then they get on the shuttle. But you think about that. So you're getting on a train, then you're getting on a shuttle. Like, at some point that's going to get old and they're going to want to come and live here. So we're able to kind of help with that gap period, or make sure that they at least get out here, they get their foot in the door. But it's long term. Who wants to be spending, 2 hours or more, commuting? Right. I don't.
No.
Done it. It was not fun, right? So I think it's important to, and the state, I think, is putting a big push on that too, of trying to make sure people know. But we struggle also at the municipal level, where we're saying, well, hey, we feel like we've done our part. We've put a lot of housing up, and what about some of the other? So it's an interesting conversation, right?
You and I absolutely. I remember talking about this where during COVID, where I certainly could have been the only person on the road heading out to Marlborough when we were building that site in the sort of darkest times.
Wow, yeah.
The other thing that I used to pass every morning was that Boston Scientific bus.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And the people on that bus get on that bus, open their laptops, Wi-Fi.
Right.
But
they're working, I think, the whole ride.
They're working, and they're not dealing with,
as many distractions.
Let's call it that way. I mean,
encounter and transport. Yeah.
You don't have to worry about who didn't make a turn signal.
Well, it's an incredible model, but I think, and this is years old data, but like Boston Scientific's paying like $250,000 a year to run that bus too. Like, and that's where we struggle to. Walter Bonin, God love him, but he's always saying, I'm going to see a train in Marlborough. I don't think we're going to get there anytime soon. But, I don't have all the answers, but those things matter. Those things matter to companies, whether they're a company that's already here in Massachusetts looking for their next location, trying to come out of Cambridge, or they're across the country and they're looking at Mass and wanting to come in and be a part of the ecosystem. Those things do matter.
Yeah, and it requires an awful lot of vision,
right? Because
it takes a long time.
Right. Government moves slow, unless you're in Marlborough. The government moves very fast in Marlborough, but they do. Do we have a question?
Speaking of government, we do have a question from President Ossing.
Great.
He says, Good morning, ladies and Maurice. What else can Marlborough be doing besides construction right on Main Street? Sorry. Right. If you hear that noise, we've got a lot.
It's going to be beautiful.
It's going to be worth it. But what else can Marlborough be doing to attract and retain life science companies? Great question.
What do you think?
I think as you prove success in the model that you've built up with this team, going out more to companies with facts about who's thinking about moving. I mean, the more you can get in front of these people with the story, the better. Which means like a roadshow. Right. And I remember the bio conference where we did the mass bio thing, which was great. But certainly more of that, but not just.
Don't just go.
Just go for the sake of it, because that's rarely productive, as it is with even folks in our teams. There's have a mission, have a deliverable, have something you want to come home with, even if it's just information. So that's number one, and I think keep staying closer to the companies that are here. I mean, the discussion that we had with Moderna,
wonderful,
in that panel discussion earlier this year was
phenomenal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
the energy in that room. And it's funny because I don't think people understand fully, what makes you guys tick or why you're here. And so thank you for doing this type of stuff to educate people on your decision making and your thought process. And because I think it's important for people to understand. And, we want to keep you guys here. We want to make sure that you're not only happy here, but growing here too.
Yeah. And it's not a no-brainer for us. But if we're doing things properly, we're thinking about our mission,
right?
Our customers front and center,
right? That's the biggest
patients
thing.
front and center, and then how do we knowing what we know, make the best decision to deliver, our plan for them,
right?
And Marlborough has been a key part in that.
Thank you
so far.
Thank you. I hope we continue to do that.
I mean, I'm saying that is in terms of things, the marketplace, the field of therapy changes very quickly.
Right.
And companies' needs will change also.
Right.
And so keeping an eye on
the trends.
On the trends and what's going on, what's important to people.
Right. So believe it or not, we're out of time, but that is a great segue for my last question of you personally. What are you most excited about from a trends perspective or, future of the life science industry? What are you most excited about or interested in?
Wow. So I think this whole idea that in a third of a generation, we've moved from treating people that are ill to curing people with death sentences. Wow. It is unbelievable. Amazing. It's an unbelievable frontier.
Right.
But it's not going to be easy. It's taken a long time so far. Yeah. And so very excited about the next generation of therapies, the new modalities, and that's why we did this most recent project here. Digitalization kind of travels with that. Everything's going to happen faster.
Okay.
And various and key components need to move along with it at that speed. We do.
Right.
So if you think about things like Chat GPT, which nobody knew about 18 months ago.
People
or maybe,
were scared of it, right?
Yeah. But the power behind that is also being deployed in research tools. Data scientists are becoming key parts of drug discovery and development.
Right.
Key parts of design of the next manufacturing facilities, the next manufacturing technologies. And so this whole area of digitalization is massive.
Massive.
And what it means for us, we need to really keep ahead of it, but it's very exciting.
That's awesome.
Something in the news, which is, when you think about regulators and regulations and even how quickly the COVID-19 vaccines were approved.
Right.
Those kind of windows of approval and evaluation are going to be sort of the benchmark for moving forward. So regulatory agencies are going to have to adapt.
Yep.
They're going to have to hire a bunch of talent that they maybe never thought they would have before.
Right.
But it's all coming together to go in sort of
That's awesome.
in that direction.
So people should be excited.
Yeah, I mean, we just signed a large deal research collaboration agreement with Sanofi to develop the next generation platform for integrated bioprocessing.
Wow.
Huge global company that chose
Right.
us to move it
Congratulations.
forward. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah,
It's great
that's great
news. But
news.
and by the way, that's Marlborough is also going to be a center for that work as well.
You know, so for any of the residents that are watching, like this is the stuff that's going on in your backyard. And, you know, I do have to give a shout out too to the city council as well for helping enable us to attract companies like yours that are doing life-changing things that affect all of us. And it's just incredible the work that you guys are doing.
They've been great, very welcoming. I've never I never met anyone like Mike Ossing who knows every single square centimeter of
He's incredible.
everything that's available, who's doing what.
Right.
So
But
I was
when we-
figuring he'd have a question today.
He always does. He's great like that. But it makes a huge difference when you're talking about encouraging us to go out to more of these trade shows and do these things. It's easy to go to those things. It's much easier to go when you know you have a city behind you that supports what you're doing. And we've been really, you know, fortunate in Marlborough. I'll say that again, that an administration, but also a council, that when we're bringing TIFs in front of them, you know, they're open to it and they understand it. And, you know, I know TIFs years ago where nobody understood what they meant and, you know, residents got a little uncomfortable, but I think we've all collectively done a good job of educating people on why it's so important. And it helps us attract companies. Last year alone, like Sartorius to invest in Lynch Boulevard and Moderna as well. I mean, those were two, you know, huge wins for the city and for all of you guys at the end of last year. So thank you to everybody involved. I want to keep doing more of it. So anything else you want to add before we wrap up? I can't believe we're out of time. It goes by so quickly, but we've enjoyed everything that you've had to say today. It's really insightful.
No, just I mean, you guys have. It's been very, very a very good experience for us ramping up here under what in the beginning was very difficult circumstances. Great support during the big project that we just got occupancy on a little while ago and have started doing the technical work now. So yeah, thanks very much for everything.
Good. Well, we can't wait for the ribbon cutting. We'll all be there with bells on and excited for you guys down on Donald Lynch.
It's in the planning as we speak.
Great. Maurice, thank you so much. Appreciate your time today.
Of course.
Awesome.
Thank you.
And to everybody watching, thank you for tuning in for episode 45 of Exploring Economic Development with MEDC. And we look forward to seeing you again in
2 months.
October. Have a great Wednesday. Bye, everybody.